Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with the third round match from my Premier Challenge over in Brooklyn last weekend. If you have not seen the first two games, definitely check them out. They are in the description below, and they're pretty fun. In the third round, I was matched up with someone named Dorian, also goes by Crazy Blissy, and he's a pretty solid player here in the New York, New Jersey area, so I knew I was in for a exciting match. In team preview, I saw that his team was Groudon, Salamence, Crobat, Xerneas, Smeargle, and Liepard. Of course, my team is Kangaskhan, Cresselia, Groudon, Palkia, Landorus-T, and Amoonguss, so I figured that Landorus-T and Amoonguss, both Pokemon I immediately kind of eliminated from bringing just because they didn't really offer very much in the matchup at all. Intimidate's not too important, and Spore can be nice, but it's a little bit passive, and I figured I'd really want to go for heavy damage output in this game, given how offensive his team was. The thing that jumped to my mind the most, though, was the Smeargle alongside the Xerneas. I figured that meant that I should lead with Cresselia over Palkia in terms of setting up Trick Room, and I also figured that my only real answer to the Smeargle is Kangaskhan. Smeargle is incredibly difficult to deal with in VGC 2016 in a best of one setting because a lot of the times, you don't know what item it has until maybe it's too late. So if it has a Choice Scarf, then a lot of players often tend to neglect attacking into it because it could also have Spiky Shield and Focus Sash. And I figure that Kangaskhan at least put the odds into my favor since it would be able to pick up the one-hit KO regardless of what item it has. And I was really hoping not to see it, but if I did, then at least Kangaskhan would give me some answers to it. He'd also have to connect with this Dark Void. So, without further ado, let's jump into this matchup. As you can see, though, he clearly did not bring Smeargle, so that was pretty helpful for me. And as always, if you enjoy these videos, please share your support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. So when I see like he leads with Crobat and Xerneas, I'm very, very content. This is almost as perfect as a lead matchup as I could have asked for, because I know that this first turn I can immediately go for the Fake Out onto Xerneas and the Trick Room. You'll notice that I actually don't Mega Evolve here, and that was intentional because I'm not taking any extra damage from Super Fang should he go for the Super Fang. And this means that once I set up Trick Room, Kangaskhan will be able to outspeed Xerneas the following turn. Normally it outspeeds it outside of Trick Room, but because I Mega Evolved, or didn't Mega Evolve, I didn't get the speed boost. He also went for the Taunt onto Cresselia, which means that with the Mentor, Crobat's turn is essentially negated, and I successfully set up Trick Room. This next turn, I know that Crobat really can't do anything to me other than Super Fang or Taunt, so I figure he's probably going to switch that out or switch the Xerneas slot out, but, Xerneas is a bigger offensive presence than Crobat is, so I go straight for the Helping Hand Double Edge, hoping to catch him off guard. Instead, he makes a good play by switching out into Salamence, which does intimidate my Kangaskhan, but with the Helping Hand, it will negate the Intimidate and should be able to pick up the knockout here. So he doesn't switch out Crobat, doesn't protect since Crobats typically don't have protect, do get the double edge off here and actually gets a crit on the first hit, so it just immediately picks up the knockout. Don't think that one mattered too much, but I'm content with it, and it made sure that I didn't have to deal with any potential damage rolls there. So Salamence goes down, and Crobat here does get the Super Fang off against Cresselia, so he at least gets some good damage output here, and the game is certainly still pretty close since he's done decent damage to both of my Pokemon, and Groudon here most likely will outspeed my Kangaskhan. So I still have to play pretty smart these next couple of turns in order to win the matchup. I know that I don't have great answers to the Xerneas in the back, so I decide to actually conserve my Kangaskhan, because otherwise, if I keep it in here, chances are it'll just faint to a Fire-type attack. So I actually withdraw my Kangaskhan, and I figured this is the perfect time for my Primal Groudon to come in. A Salamence is normally an annoying answer to deal with for Primal Groudon, but I eliminated his Salamence, and I know all of his Pokemon now, so I actually make a pretty fun play here by switching into the Groudon, and I know that his Groudon is probably going to be faster than my outside of Trick Room because he's got Tailwind on his team, so Cresselia here is actually just going to be able to get the skill swap off, which means that Groudon now does have Levitate. He goes for the Eruption there on his Groudon, which is a really great play because it just knocks out Cresselia, and if Kangaskhan stayed in, then Kangaskhan would have been knocked out as well. I think he was probably expecting for Cresselia to survive, so he actually goes for the Taunt onto my Groudon there instead of a Super Fang. Neither matters too much because if he went for the Super Fang, Crobat can't knock me out and I can just Earth Power the Groudon slot. But because he didn't get that extra damage off, it means that this next turn I can actually go straight for the Flamethrower play onto Crobat and the Earth Power play. Flamethrower does crit the Crobat there, and I assume that one probably mattered a little bit since Crobat's typically in the bulkier spectrum, but Palkia is able to outspeed his Groudon under Trick Room, and it gets the Earth Power off, which deals so much damage, around 80%. Gets the Special Defense drop off as well, but that doesn't matter as much at this point. And because of that damage output, he probably wasn't expecting me to do that much. Eruption does absolutely nothing there. He probably didn't have many answers at this point, given that Groudon did have the Levitate onto him. So he brings in Xerneas, and I figure that since this is the last turn of Trick Room, the biggest play he can make in order to actually still win the matchup is to go for the Geomancy here with the Xerneas. He could also double protect, but I figured he might want to opt for the Geomancy play, so instead of switching out into Kangaskhan for fake out pressure the next turn, I immediately go for the Flamethrower and Earth Power play, and that works out perfectly because Xerneas doesn't protect, and I just get the knockout there onto Xerneas. So that means like he doesn't get the potential Geomancy off, and that means that the game is essentially won since it's 3-1 in my favor. He actually just forfeits the game at that point, realizing that his Groudon can't do anything against my team, and I do end up winning the game and the round 3-1. So really exciting match, and I think that last turn is a huge testament to VGC 2016. You might be ahead by a significant amount, but you still have to make the right play every turn. I honestly think if he got the Geomancy off there, I would have lost the game, because then he could just Dazzling Gleam and go for maybe a Flamethrower or whatever last fire type attack he had with this Groudon to knock out my Groudon, since at that point he's doing so much damage with his Xerneas. Another play I was considering on that very last turn was to actually switch out into my Kangaskhan with my Palkia and then just attack with my Groudon. Assuming like he did go for the double protect, then in the following turn I could just fake out Flamethrower to pick up the knockout onto Xerneas, and the game would be over there as well. So it's kind of a 50-50 call, but I figured he'd lean towards the Geomancy play since double protect is typically pretty obvious. So ends up working out in my favor, and I deny him from having a potential Geomancy sweep late in the game. Another thing is if I got the Flamethrower off, then he would have gotten the Geomancy off, and Kangaskhan's Sucker Punch might have had enough firepower to deal with it, but I'm not entirely sure, and I didn't want to leave it to that, so I figured it was better to just try to pick up the knockout on that turn. Worked out perfectly. Overall, in the match, I was really content. I think I played pretty well, and I definitely brought the right Pokemon. Landorus and Amoonguss certainly wouldn't have helped me out any much more than these four did. So, lead matchup played out perfectly. Denied him from taunting my Cresselia and Trick Room going up, which was perfect. Smeargle wasn't a factor in the game at all, which was really good, and had to make some decent plays, had to make sure that I actually capitalized off Trick Room, and fortunately enough, it did pay out. So that's going to be it for this match, a pretty exciting one, and that does mean that I am 3-0 moving into the next 3 rounds. Stay tuned for the next couple of days to see how the last 3 rounds play out. It's going to be it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like always if you did, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright, peace.